Hey, this is Sean with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by Go Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And we want to hear your story on the podcast right now. So tell us your favorite story, fun, exciting, crazy, interesting, anything. And you might have your story featured on the podcast. Go to letsgotennis.com/my story. We got some giveaways. It's worth it. Check it out. This is Tennis Fitness with Nathan Martin. Nathan and his wife have been at the forefront of tennis fitness innovation for the last 20 years. They have worked with some household names like Leighton Hewitt, Sam Stosur, and Martina Navratilova. Today, we are talking about what the pros do. Are there major or minor differences between the players on tour, what they do during, before a match, after a match? Anything that we can learn from, we mere mortals that just play tennis the way that we do, what can we learn from them? So Nathan, do you want to start with the players? Maybe the best example would be the players with the best longevity. Do we want to start there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the classic case is probably someone like Roger Federer, although Roger's extremely talented on the court, right? He actually did a lot of work off court, particularly protecting his body. So an area that most players on the tour focus on, it's body, what we call body management. And everyone's slightly different. You very rarely will find at that level every player doing exactly the same things. They'll do modifications of like foam rolling and getting physio treatment and doing strengthening exercises, but they work out pretty soon. Hey, this is where I carry my tension. This is where I'm going to be problematic. I need to, as a starting point, and my priority is to manage those areas. So what's really important for the social player, the recreational player, or someone that's really trying to maximize their game, it is to make sure that you're conscious of what your body, where the state it's in, and how you can help your body perform better. And you'll start to realize, hey, look, this is where I always seem to get a little niggle here, or this is really an area that holds me back on court. That's your body type. That's what you need to focus on, whether it means you need to get it stronger, get a little bit more fitter, or prepare your body a bit more in that area before you get on court. So the pros really work their bodies out. They've got a team around them generally that help them understand that. But any of us at any level can work that out pretty simply ourselves. It's not hard. You just go, hey, yeah, look, my shoulder is an area that generally will hold me back the most. Do something for it. Don't wait till it is a problem. The pros are all about, hey, I need to keep playing. I need to spend time on court. What's going to stop me being on court? That's what I need to address.
And that's a self-awareness that you're talking about, is understanding your own body, which
Yep.
really takes time. That takes a focus, but I don't think it takes any magic. It's just actually paying attention, right?
Yeah, it's just a lot of it's just in the preparation. So I'll give you a bit of an example of what I've experienced. The typical sort of social or recreational player will go, they're working, depending on their age, etc. They've got some children. So there's a bit going on, right? Picking kids up, dropping them off, trying to get yourself prepared for tennis as well. Often getting to tennis and physically not being as prepared as they could be. Getting on court and going, oh, damn, this shoulder's flaring up a little bit again. And then they'll wait till it escalates until, hey, I need to have a month off. I need to get some treatment for it. So if we can work out in advance, right, how to prevent getting to that point. So it's having some kind of a management plan in place, which is what the pros do. Every day they're beating on that area, they're managing it because they know, hey, if I miss the US Open and I miss making it to the fourth round, that's a lot of points. It's a lot of money. And, you know, they don't want to be sitting in a hotel room watching everyone else on court. They're highly aware of that. Prevention and spending time on court is their biggest priority. So everyone thinks their training's full blown hard and, you know, they're smashing themselves. Generally, their priority is first, how do I keep myself on court the longest and play it the best? And then they work back from there. So everyone, you know, everybody's different. I think someone, when we talk about longevity, someone for me that I always really admired was David Ferrer. So he was a Spanish player. I think he spent something crazy like 10 years. He was in the top 10, might have even been longer.
Perennial
So
semifinalist.
yeah, hell of a long run in the top 10. And I used to watch that guy train. So I remember one year at the Aussie Open, he'd won his first round very comfortably. And I kid you not, he would have finished his match at, say, 2 p.m. I watched the end of it on TV, and I was driving to the courts with the player that I was working with. And at about 5:30, so he would have finished his match, probably was an hour and a half. I saw him running. He'd been out for a run after the match, right? And because the match was pretty easy for him, he used to love his distance running. And I found out that he'd been out for like an hour and a half run.
What?
So for him, yeah, after his match, yeah, and he had a rest day the next day because he obviously has a day off between matches, but that was just his thing. He was ultra fit, and for him, that's a form for him for his injury prevention. He just had to keep his fitness level up. His game was based around just not letting people hit him off the court. But that was his thing. He worked out, hey, this is what I need to do. And I found out a little bit more about it. And he said, yeah, I need to do that to help me prevent injuries, because I need to have a really strong endurance base. So yeah, everyone's a bit different, but the main message is to find the area that you need to work on to help you spend more quality time on court, and then work back from that. That is what the pros do.
Well, and that leads me to the question, which is, if I'm looking at prevention, I do not suggest to any social player, I'm looking at you, social player, don't go for an hour and a half run after your tennis match if you're going to play again in the next couple of days. That's again, these are superhero people, right? We're the mere mortals. But what do you suggest from a prevention standpoint? How do I do that? To just say, well, put a prevention plan in place. What would something like that look like?
Great question. Generally, and I've said this before in our time together, it's focusing on a couple of key areas. So we've got strength. So normally associate strength and what we call stability. So stability is more focusing on trying to stabilize a joint. So particularly the shoulder joint. A lot of social players have issues with the shoulder. It's a very vulnerable joint. There's not a lot of muscle mass around it, but yet it can get into a lot of different positions. And it's easy. As soon as we extend the arm out, we have less support for the joint. We put the arm above our head and we start swinging, there's even less. So we need to stabilize the small muscles that help support the joint. So in particular, the rotator cuff. So that's like doing a lot of band work. Most people are familiar with rotator cuff strengthening exercises. And then we couple stability with strength. So then you've got more like your global strength exercises. So like squatting and things like, push-ups and lunges and these sorts of things. The stronger and more stable the body, the more resilient it's going to be to injury over everything else. If you focus on stabilizing joints and strengthening up your global, like your big muscles, you're moving yourself away from being injured. That combined with flexibility. So if we combine those areas together, I can guarantee you it's going to give you the biggest bang for buck and definitely help you spend more time on court.
An ounce of prevention, as we say, right?
Prevention. Yes. So if you're doing, and if you want to break it down into some, like the frequency of those things, so how often should you be doing them? So we want to be doing our strength and stability exercises. So you can combine those two areas into a session. So you can do, like, say, some squats, and then you can go straight in and do something for your shoulder girdle. And you can combine those two areas together. So the strength and the stability. And we want to be doing those at least twice a week. At least twice a week. It can be a 20-minute session. And then we want to look at flexibility minimum 3 times a week, and we want to be spending about 20 minutes in that space as well. So stretching out in particular, people don't have time like the pros do. Some pros will spend 3 hours recovering after even practices or matches. Okay. By the time they get treatment, they stretch, they have hot, cold, contrast, or whatever they want to do. There's a couple of hours chewed up there. People don't have that time. But if you're just focusing on stretching out the areas you get tight, then you're another step away from getting injured.
And in that case, I can look that plan that they have, that the superheroes have, and bring it to myself and say, okay, 3 days a week, I need to do some stretching, whether it's anything that I can focus on that area. I need to do some strength work. And it sounds easier than it is, because the 3 hours of stretching they're doing is part of their job. And for us, this is part of our hobby. This is part of just the thing that I'm doing for fun. So it isn't as though anybody comes home and says, hey, honey, good to see you. I'm going to go stretch for 3 hours. It's just not going to happen in a normal lifespan.
That's right.
So if I'm looking at 20 minutes, even that sounds like it's difficult to throw in. But I think the suggestion is find something to do. Get into some routine. If you start once a week, and then maybe you move it into twice a week, or focus on that one area. So that's my prevention ahead of time. Is there anything I can do in the middle of my match? So I say I got before, I got in the middle of my match, and then post match. We've talked about before and after. Is there anything during the match? Should I be careful in any way, or can I stretch during the match? I've got too many ideas. That's a long question. Or should I just do a better job of taking a rest in between games?
Yeah. It's almost like if you're in a war, right? You want to have your plan and you want to prepare for it. When you're in the middle of it, it's not really the time to go, hey, like you can adjust strategically, but you're not going to go, hey, I need to get better at this in the moment. Like I need to, what am I going to do? So the preparation's key, and then recovery. So you talk about pre-match and post-match. So I consider post-match basically just preparing for the next session. It's a totally different mindset. If we say, hey, I've finished the match, now it's continuing because I've got to do my stretching and recovery. I know it's boring. But if we switch the mindset to, hey, I've just finished, I've got to get ready for tomorrow. I've got to get ready for my next practice session. We're thinking in the future, which is more motivating. It's drawing us into that moment rather than holding us back in the past. But yeah, in the match, look, if everyone's watching this, I can pretty much guarantee majority of people, if they sat there and thought about it when they're on court, they'd go, yeah, I actually do get quite tight in this area or that area if I'm on court for an hour or 2 hours. So yes, you want to prepare and strengthen and get those areas flexible away from matches and in matches. The longer you play, the more susceptible your body is to carrying tension, getting dehydrated, getting fatigued, and those areas will start to pop up. It's always going to be the areas that your body's, where your breakdown in your body is of your movement, what areas you carry your tension in, whatever areas are the weakest are what are going to break the chain. So yeah, you want to stay on top of those. If it's your calves, you want to stretch your calves out at the change of ends, or if you're in a squat or hitting with a private coach, you'll say, hey, I'm just going to stretch my calves for 30 seconds. You'll give them a stretch. If it's one side, just focus on that. If it's your shoulder and you know what works for you to release it, a stretch, you do that when you can. Simple.
And I think the advice there is that's more important. That 30 seconds of stretching could be more important than the 30 seconds spent hitting tennis balls.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Because
one
that's
of the issues I've always had with the way tennis is trained for, is the focus is always on hitting balls. And it feels good, right? You hit the ball sweetly and you're like, oh man, that just does something to me. It makes me feel alive. It's putting a smile on your face now,
just thinking about it.
Good. Yeah, it feels good, right? And that's why when we're shanking them all over the place and we don't know why, it's frustrating. So that, that's what we're all aiming for, to find that sweet spot as often as we can. And people just think, hey, everything's about hitting balls. And as we lose time, through just lifestyle, and we get less time to spend on court in those moments, the less we want to do away from them to help us perform better in those moments, because we just think, I just want to get on court and hit more and play more. So going back to what you said about, hey, it's hard. When can people get these sessions in? Couple of tips. The main one is, okay, I mentioned 20 minutes of strength and stability. So if you're playing tennis, say most people probably play twice a week. Okay, most social players, they finish a lesson, if it's for 1.5 hours, straight after that session, have your exercises ready to go and go, you know what, I'm here now, I'm warm, I'm already pre-fatigued, which is good. You're happy to do your strength training when you're already a bit pre-fatigued, because that's what we're trying to do, is fatigue the body to make it more robust and resilient. So go straight into your strength after that, get your 20 minutes out, and then finish off with some stretching after that. So if you allocated like even 30 minutes at the end of a lesson, it will make a big difference. It does two things. It saves you time. It's going to make you feel great. And the third benefit from a performance perspective is, all of a sudden your body's used to training for an hour and a half in your private lesson or the squad, whatever you're in, and you extend it another 30 minutes. You're not paying for it. You're doing it on your own. And all of a sudden your body's used to training for 2 hours. So when you get on court over time for the hour and a half that you're hitting, your body's going to be more robust, going to be fitter, it's going to be stronger. It's used to going for 2 hours, not an hour and a half. So that is a big tip for people. And if people can't find that extra half an hour to do, then they're extremely busy. That's just the way it is. We sort of can't help them much more than that. But that is my number one tip for a social player, to squeeze those sessions in.
Make one session longer. Now, how does that reflect against the repetition? What is the spaced out repetition that's consistent, to say twice a week for an hour each is arguably better than once a week for 2 hours? That idea that you brought up is, hey, look, if you're just out there and that's your one day a week, that's your time to do it, go ahead and get it done. But actually, is it better? Let's say I can say, all right, I'm going to put in this half an hour. I'm going to find time other than my day with my practice. I got my practice day, then I'm going to find 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and then I got my matches on the weekend or whenever those are. It would be actually better to split them up, right? Or is there a warm-up period that makes it almost
100%.
more beneficial when you're already there?
It depends on each individual with how much time they've got. Like there's ideals. Like if someone can train twice a week away from their tennis lessons, that's fantastic, because they're going to have more time to invest more energy, but they do need to warm themselves up for it. They need to spend, time getting the session done, etc. We're talking more about, in this scenario, people that are really stranded for time, but still want to get those sessions in. I typically, for a social player, would recommend that they do the session at the back end of a tennis practice session.
Okay.
Yep. Because they're already there, they're warmed up, their body's already pre-fatigued, they're ready to go. It gives them a bit of time to think about what happened in the match or the practice session, or the practice match, whatever they did. And I think people get a lot out of it as well. So if you have someone that's super dedicated as a social or recreational player, and they're training 3 to 5 times a week, then their training is going to be structured quite differently to the scenario we've just gone over. They're going to be following like a full-blown program, and sessions are probably going to be 45 minutes to an hour, a little bit more intense.
Got it. And you've got programs for that online, which I'm excited about, because I need that 40 and over one. And, for when I get there, right? I need that one for sure. And those are the things that you can help with on it. It's a program. It is, hey, this is going to be a few days a week. If you're looking to dedicate the time, and that's really the question is, hey, what do the pros do? They dedicate the time. And I think that might be the biggest difference is, their job is this, and we have other things. We've got families and other responsibilities. And so what kind of time can we put into it? is really the question, and extending that one night a week, if that's all you got, I think that's a great idea.
Well, the biggest, when we talk about that pro space, those players get there because their passion for the game overrides everything else. They've all been injured. They've all had setbacks. They've all had a swing of tournaments where they've lost first round. They've had personal stuff go on that's affected how they play. Trust me, I've worked with, over 20 pros, and they all go through the same challenges as everyone else. It is a job, but what gets them through it is their passion for the game. And what stops players from playing and retiring is when that passion can't get through those moments of toughness. Whether it's, I can't get through this injury, well, they can, but they're not willing to. The passion just starts to dwindle because other things come into play, and they've just, some players hang in there and they're still playing on the tour. They might be 200 in the world. They might have been top 10 in the past. They just love the game. They keep playing. They just love it, and their passion just overrides everything. They don't care they're 200 in the world. They just want to keep playing, and they just do whatever they can do to stay there. Then you get people who retire prematurely because, the passion drops. So if you absolutely love the game and you want to improve, you need to find ways to help that happen. You'll find ways to get your training sessions in each week. Okay. A lot of the times we make excuses, but if your passion to improve is strong enough, you will find ways to get the work done to make you perform better. So I always tell the young players, I work with, this is one of my main mottos. Okay. Don't find excuses, find solutions. Be a problem solver. You're going to have problems every day on the court, getting to the courts, away from the court. It's life. But find a way to solve them. And in a match, you become a problem solver. You work someone out. You try something different. It's a good mindset to have.
It's a great mindset. And those of us, the mere mortals, we're going to find a way. We're going to figure it out. If you're passionate about it, I like that word, Nathan. If you're passionate about tennis and you do want to improve, find the time. Nathan, you've given us a couple of great ideas. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. See you guys.